Hi all, welcome to Healthy Living with Dr. EE. Before we begin the event, please be reminded that the content is copyrighted. No recording or sharing is allowed. Let us all welcome our special guest for today, Dr. EE Zhang.
Hello everyone. First, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your Saturday morning to listen to me talk. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Dr. EE, what is the immune system? Is it just one organ or one cell? What comprises the immune system?
So when you're looking at the immune system, it's a whole bunch of different things working together to help defend us against foreign invaders. It's made up of different cells, different proteins, tissues, and organs, and all of these, they work together to defend you against microorganisms and other invaders that may cause harm. Through a series of responses called the immune response, the immune system attacks organisms and substances that can cause disease. So first, let's have a look at the immune system. The bone marrow. The bone marrow is one of the main immune organs, but a lot of people don't know this. It helps produce not only the immune cells, but a lot of the other blood cells in your body. Next up is your thymus. Now, just like an army, if you want effective soldiers, you're going to have to send them for further training. So the thymus is like a camp, a training ground for your immune cells. They go there to learn specialized actions. Did you know that your tonsils are also part of the immune system? They help defend against infections in your upper respiratory tract. A lot of people have them taken out without realizing they're taking out one of the immune organs. So the people who have tonsils taken out are more prone to these sorts of infections. The spleen has a store of immune cells that will give you ammunition. So you can imagine it as if it's an ammunition production factory. The lymph nodes are like a filter or a trap. So it's a bit like police checks on a highway. As the cars go through, the police checks will see where are the bad guys and where are the good guys. So when it comes to all of this, your lymph nodes are like that as well. When it comes to this, as the bad guys pass through this area, only the good guys are allowed through, and all the bad guys, they're stuck there. So it's a bit like a trap. Next up is the Peyer's patches. Now, this is a really good example of how we're always learning new things about the immune system. When you're looking at the Peyer's patches, these are really tiny patches that you can see in your small intestine, and they work with the immune system and they help you protect against infections in that area. Next up is the subcapsular proliferative foci. Now, this is another relatively new discovery. It wasn't discovered before because when we did all of these studies, we would do it on tissue that was already dead. And for this particular part, you can only see it in people who are still living. So it has a lot of different immune cells, like the memory B cells. The appendix is also part of your immune system. A lot of people have appendicitis and have it taken out without knowing this. It helps protect you against lower intestinal infections, and it also helps the maturation of your immune cells. Now let's look at the more specialized cells. Now just have a look at this. You can see all of the red cells going through, and among these you can see these little white cells. Now the white cells are your immune cells. So we call them generally just white cells, but we can also split them up into other categories as well. For example, for simplicity's sake, we're going to call these B cells. Within your blood, you're going to see most of these white cells are B cells and T cells. So we can divide them into these two broad categories, B cells from the bone marrow and T cells from the thymus. Now your B cells will produce your antibodies. They're like bullets in an army. And the amazing thing is that when it comes to your antibodies, they're very specific. They're like guided missiles. So when your B cell recognizes these foreign invaders, they will produce these special types of antibodies. And you can develop more than 1 billion different types of antibodies. There is really a huge number, and every single one of them is specific. So it will attach to a foreign invader and it will help destroy it. And the best thing about all of this is that it has a memory. So when you're looking at all these things, the next time it comes up, your B cells will be able to produce all of these antibodies faster and target it better. This is also the rationale behind vaccines. Another really interesting cell we have is called the macrophage. Now, what the macrophage does is instead of secreting things like the B cell, like the antibodies, what the macrophage does instead is it patrols around your body and it searches for these foreign invaders. Once it finds one, it just gobbles it up, it eats it, and then destroys it within its own body. Now, a really special type of cell we have is called the natural killer cell. Now, the natural killer cell is a bit different from the other cells in your body. The other cells in your body are really focused towards getting rid of foreign invaders. But the natural killer cell, it patrols your body and it surveils your body. It makes sure that the cells in your body are also healthy. So if you have a cell there that's been infected by a virus, the natural killer cell will know and will destroy this virus-infected cell. It will also be able to find cancer. So if you have a cell that is not quite right, that's mutated, that's wrong, your natural killer cell will find it and destroy it. So it has the capacity to find these mutated cells, these tumor cells, and destroy them before it becomes a problem for you. So when it comes to our immune system, not only does it help protect against foreign invaders, it also helps protect against your own body as well. It gets rid of all of these viruses, bacteria, even some parasites, and it can also help get rid of tumors. So when it comes to our immune system, it really is the very best doctor that we can have. So we really have to put in a lot of effort to taking care of our immune system. A lot of illnesses are down to the malfunctioning of our immune system. When it's weak, you start to get problems. But when it's strong, then you're in the best position to protect yourself. So as long as your immune system is functioning properly, you'll be able to defend yourself from most illnesses.
There are a lot of products on the market that claim to stimulate or activate parts of the immune system, like the macrophages, and other products claim to boost immunoglobulins. Some products even claim to contain things that are similar to the immune system. Should I be stimulating or activating my immune system like this? How do I maintain a good and healthy immune system?
So when it comes to our immune system, one thing we have to remember is that no medication can replace it. Our immune system is so complicated. It's a bit like our brain. We know it works. We have some idea of the different parts and functions, but we still don't know how exactly they all come together. And I'm pretty sure there are still some parts that we haven't discovered yet. The immune system is like that. We know generally how it works. We know generally the different bits and pieces of it, but we can't say that we know 100% that we understand it all. The immune system can know and adapt to every situation, sort of like our brain, and we can't replicate that. Medication just isn't that specific. It isn't that smart. Our immune system is so complicated. It's not just one organ. It's a huge complex network that works together. And the way the immune system works is that it's very specific and it's very targeted, whereas a medication just can't reach that level. So our knowledge and understanding of the immune system isn't at the level where we can direct it to where we want it to attack, when to attack, how, what cells to use, what immune compounds to use, and how much. We just don't have the science or the knowledge for that yet. So what medications we do have, it has a very generalized effect. It will either suppress the entire immune system or it stimulates in everything. The medication will cover it all. So when you do this, for example, when you stimulate your immune system, it will also affect the places that don't have a foreign invader. So it has a lot of collateral damage, like side effects. For example, when your immune system is working on its own, you don't have these sort of side effects because your immune system will be able to control its response to a certain area. Your immune system knows where the problem is, so it sends cells to that area to fix the issue. But medications aren't like that. We can't do that with medications. So it's a bit like a guided missile versus a bomb. With a guided missile, you hit a specific area, but with a bomb, you get a lot of collateral damage. It's the same thing with medication. Now, on the flip side, the medication that suppresses the immune system, it will suppress all of it as well. So then you start running into problems such as not being able to fight off infections as well as you should, or even increasing the risk of cancer because your immune cells can't find these cancer cells as well as it can before. Now, some people will say that there are products now that supposedly can help or stimulate certain parts of your immune system, like macrophages or other cells. But if we still don't understand the immune system fully, how can you say that stimulating just one cell is a good thing and not a bad thing? So what it comes down to is we don't want to mess about with something we still don't quite understand. What we want to do instead is support the immune system in general. We want to support the immune system so that it's best able to do its own functions because we do have to trust our body. Our body knows what it's doing. Our immune system, it knows what it's doing. So we just need to support its own functions. Like I mentioned before, scientists still don't understand the immune system completely. We just have to look at the diseases out there. For example, autoimmune diseases and allergies, there's still no cure yet. So when it comes to our immune system, it can get rid of and even prevent diseases, but that really depends on how healthy and functional it is. We all know that if our immune system isn't working right, we're going to have some serious problems coming our way. For example, an allergy happens when your immune system sees something harmless, like a piece of flower pollen or a peanut, and it launches an attack against it when it really shouldn't. An autoimmune disease happens when your immune system mistakes your body's own cells for foreign cells, so then it will launch an attack against these cells. For example, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, psoriasis, all of these are examples of autoimmune diseases, or even cancer. It all comes down to our immune system. Now, we can just even look at infections. Not even infections can always be cured by doctors. The treatments doctors give are those that don't really target the root cause, which is the virus, the bacteria, or even the parasites. A lot of the treatments doctors give are more to help your immune system along, to help you suppress the symptoms so you feel okay. It's mostly to buy time while your immune system does its job, and hopefully your immune system will be able to fight off. That's why even till today, there are still some people who will die from simple infections, like the common cold or even the flu. So why do some people die and others survive? The survivors will be the ones who are healthier. They're the ones with a fully functioning immune system, while the ones that die have complications with your immune response. For example, some diseases can trigger cytokine storms. It happens in really any infection at all. Doctors still don't know why exactly it happens or what exactly triggers it. We still don't know why some people get it and other people don't. We just don't know. Just take a look at the current pandemic. Scientists still don't know the best way to treat COVID-19. They're racing to find a vaccine, but at the same time, we get a lot of patients, especially young patients, who will get very, very sick from a cytokine storm. Now, what exactly is a cytokine storm? Firstly, let's look at what are cytokines. Cytokines are small proteins that different immune cells use for communication, so they're not inherently bad. You really need them. So when the immune system is working right, these cytokines, they work together with the different aspects of your immune system to neutralize the threat. So then what is a cytokine storm? The cytokine storm is when these cytokines have gone out of control. It's due to a malfunctioning immune system. A lot of people have this misconception that a cytokine storm happens because your immune system is too strong. It's not that. It's because your immune system isn't working right. And the immune cells, they don't know when to stop attacking. It's like having the gas pedal on a car pressed all the way down to the floor while the brakes are broken. So if your immune system just keeps attacking and attacking and attacking and it can't stop, it causes a lot of collateral damage. And that's why you see a lot of people getting organ damage from the cytokine storm. Now let's have a closer look at the immune system. Now, when you're looking at the immune system, the response is also super complicated. So even the response of the immune system, we can split into two broad parts, the innate immune system and the acquired immune system, also known as the adaptive immune system. So the innate immune system is the one that you're born with. The acquired immune system is the one that you develop and train throughout life. And these two systems, they work very closely together. Now, the innate immune system is like the rapid response system of the body's defense. It's always generalized, meaning that it will target anything that it identifies as foreign or non-self. So this response is the first response, is the fastest response, and it will initiate a generalized response, for example, like inflammation. Now, this inflammatory response will call other immune cells to the area and help stop the foreign invaders. There's a lot of cells that will take part in the immune system. Now, if you look at the adaptive immune system, it's something different. Now, the adaptive immune system is trained. Haven't you ever wondered why you seem to recover from certain diseases faster and faster once you've already had it? Or sometimes once you get a disease, you won't ever get it again? Or why vaccinations work? All of this is thanks to the adaptive immune system, also called acquired immunity. Now, you can think of this like the strategic portion of the immune system. Unlike the innate immune system, this one is a little bit slower because it requires some training, but it's very specific. So once you have a pathogen, like a virus or bacteria that triggers the adaptive immune system, the immune system, it forms a specific attack method, like an attack plan. And the best thing is that it has a memory. So the next time this same pathogen is encountered, the immune response will be faster and stronger. And oftentimes that response is so fast and so strong that it gets rid of the foreign invader before you even know it's there. That's how vaccines work. That's why sometimes if you get chickenpox once, you're not going to get it again. That's why it works, because your immune system learns and it has a memory. And then the next time it sees the same foreign invader, it will get rid of it super fast. Now, what happens when the immune system malfunctions? You start to get all sorts of problems like allergies, autoimmune diseases, even immunodeficiency disorders, or even infections. So the most important thing that we have to do is to promote the balance, to maintain the balance of our immune system. Because our immune system, it knows when to attack, it knows how to attack, it knows exactly which cells are needed, and also super important, it also knows when to stop. So modern scientific capabilities have profoundly altered the course of modern life. People live longer and better than at any other point in all of history. Now, all of these scientific advances have turned the process of illness into a medical experience, something to be handled by doctors. But doctors aren't always prepared. A lot of the medications doctors have, they don't really cure. They just help you hang on long enough for the immune system to do its job. So when it comes down to it, we really want to support our immune system. We want to support our immune system so that it gets rid of any illnesses. We don't want to wait until we have an illness and then start looking for a cure, because we know that's not going to happen. We want to take care of ourselves so that we never get to the point where we want to be looking for a cure to begin with. Now, when it comes to our immune system, is it good to stimulate certain immune cells? Not really. You look at our immune system, it's made up of so many different parts: the lymph nodes, tonsils, spleens, the marrow, the thymus, all of these other cells. So you have to ask yourself, which immune cells should be stimulated, which part, how many, and how would it affect the other immune cells? So currently, it's not really a good idea because we don't know. We don't have that understanding yet. Our immune cell, it can't be replaced by a medication. So we really have to rely on ourselves. We have to rely on our own diet, on our own nutrition to be able to support our immune cells. It's not really good to stimulate certain immune cells because we don't know the best mix and number. And our body will also continuously make more immune cells than we need. So the excess cells will destroy themselves via apoptosis or natural cell death. So our body, our immune cells, they've got it under control. You don't really need to mess about with the minute details. All you really need is to give the immune system the fuel it needs. So for a healthy, balanced immune system, we're really looking at a diet rich in natural and wholesome plant foods. That's the best way we can promote a healthy immune system. It's just to nourish it through your diet. And everything you need is all within your reach. It's all just inside the supermarket. You don't have to wait for doctors to come up with something new inside a laboratory. You don't have to spend huge amounts of money buying a dubious supplement that supposedly claims to help boost certain immune cells. All you need to do is go to the supermarket, buy a huge variety of different plants and vegetables, get a whole bunch of different colors. That's really all you need to do. It's really easy and it's all within your control. So we might not be able to control a lot of things. For example, we are not able to control new viruses from coming up. We can't prevent carcinogenic compounds in the air, but we can control what we eat. Everyone knows that if you eat better, you live longer and healthier. The impact of improving your diet is huge. For example, a study done found that just having a better diet, will prevent more than 400,000 deaths per year from heart disease, the number one killer. Now, you don't have to eat particular foods either. For example, there's no point eating certain foods to target the health of one particular organ or one particular cell. Because like I mentioned before, it all works together. And if one organ fails, if one cell fails, it drags everything down along with it. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So we have to nourish our health in general. And that means including more wholesome plant foods and a variety of wholesome plant foods. We also want to exercise more. We as human beings, we aren't made to be couch potatoes, but we also don't need to be super extreme. Every day, just make it a goal to get up and walk a little bit more. It's all about the mindset. I'm not saying that you have to go from a couch potato to 30 minutes of hard exercise a day. Baby steps are okay. The more important thing is to find the motivation to get moving. And once you start, you will find that it's much, much easier to just ramp it up slowly and form that really healthy habit. We also want to get adequate rest because it doesn't matter if you exercise a lot if you aren't getting enough rest. Your body needs both of them, activity and rest. And last of all, but not least, don't worry. Be happy. Our mental state is linked with our immune system. Some research even shows that our mood can affect our well-being. So really, we want to look at everything, our physical health, but also our mental health. Everyone makes their choices every day. So it's all about having responsibility over your own health. It's all about taking control of the things that are in your control. It's about picking the right foods to eat to support our immune system. It's about changing your lifestyle because we know that health is more than what you eat. And it's about understanding that practicing prevention is always better than seeking a cure.
I've been seeing a lot of advertisements about these so-called immune system boosting milk. And as a selling point, they say their milk contains substances such as colostrum or immunoglobulins, and they claim that it can boost the immunity of children. Can these immunoglobulins actually help our immune system? And should we start drinking more if we want a healthy immune system?
So when it comes to milk, a lot of people have this idea that milk is something that's really healthy and really nutritious for us. I blame advertisements for this. You always see on TV or even on the internet or even just YouTube, the advertisements about milk are always pushing about how healthy it is, how nutritious it is. And especially when they're trying to market it towards babies or children, they'll always say, we have all sorts of immunoglobulins inside this milk. Or they'll say that it can boost the immunity of your kids. And every parent, they want the best for their children. So they might listen to this and think, you know what, it sounds pretty good. But there's one thing that we need to keep in mind, and it seems really obvious, but people keep glossing it over as if it doesn't matter. Infants aren't cows. We're humans. We're not baby cows. So when it comes to what you want to feed your baby, what we want for them is human milk or breast milk. Breast milk is designed for and produced specifically for babies. Cow's milk is designed for and produced for baby cows. Just because we can drink it doesn't mean that it's the healthiest choice or even a good one. Infants, they require a specific blend of nutrients during that delicate period of life, and mother's milk has everything that they need. Nature is literally providing the baby with what it needs and for free. It contains not just nutrients, but different enzymes and even immune compounds that help give the baby the best head start they can get in life. But we also have to remember is that babies and even children, they're not small adults. Their bodies are still developing and they have significant differences. So just because an adult can drink milk without consequences doesn't mean that a baby can. Or even in dramas sometimes, I just wish they had to hire someone to check their facts because every so often I'll watch a drama and it's always really sad. It's always about a baby who loses their mother, and in a panic, the relatives will find a cow or give the baby milk to nurse that baby back to health. In fact, infants can't even digest cow's milk properly. Cow's milk contains high concentrations of proteins and minerals, which can stress a newborn's immature kidneys, and it can even cause severe illness, for example, fever, diarrhea, or just unnecessary stress. In addition, cow's milk lacks the proper amounts of iron, vitamin C, or other nutrients that an infant needs. It might even cause iron deficiency anemia in some babies, since cow's milk protein can irritate the lining of the stomach and intestine, leading to bleeding. And if you just think about it, a baby, they're so small, it doesn't take a lot of bleeding for them to get anemia. Cow's milk also doesn't contain the healthiest types of fat for growing babies. Now, a lot of people think that fat is something that's bad for us because for most of us, we're getting more than enough fat. We're getting more than we need. But fat is something that we do need. And for babies, they do need fat, but they do need the healthier types of fat. So for these reasons, your baby should not receive any regular cow's milk for the first 12 months of its life. Not to mention that when it comes to all of these immunoglobulins, they're different. A cow immunoglobulin is not the same as a human immunoglobulin. For example, in cows, the immunoglobulin is often IgG. In human milk, it's often IgA. And infant formula, it doesn't contain the antibodies that you find in breast milk. Next up is that antibodies are specific. Remember what I said before? They're specific. So if you encounter a foreign particle, your immune system will develop antibodies that are specific for this foreign compound. And this is really helpful for babies because when a baby is born, they're going to live in the same place as their mother. And the breast milk of their mother, it will contain different immune compounds that help protect the baby. It helps give the baby a jump start, a head start to their life, because when they're just born, their immune system is new. Their immune system is still learning. It's very immature. So the immunoglobulins, or the immune compounds that the mother passes on to the baby, it's to protect them, to tide them over until their immune cells can do its job properly. So the mother's milk will contain all of the protective agents for the baby. And because the baby and mom are living in the same place, they're going to be exposed to the same foreign invaders. So the immune compounds mom produces is especially useful for the baby because it's protecting the baby against things that they're most likely going to encounter. But then what about cows? Think about it. Where do cows live? If you say a meadow, I'm going to say you've watched too many commercials. They live in crowded barns. They live in cow pens. So the foreign agents that a cow would encounter are completely different from a human who lives in a house. The viruses, the bacteria they all meet, they're all different. And you know what? Even if they were exactly the same, it still wouldn't really matter because immunoglobulins are sensitive to high temperatures and acidity. Most countries do not allow raw cow's milk to be sold because it carries a lot of risk. So it has to go through a pasteurization process, which will destroy most of these immunoglobulins. Not to mention is that you will also make your own antibodies, so you don't have to worry. These things, they also don't last forever and they have their own shelf life. So even the ones from mom, they don't last forever. They only last for a period of time, a short period of time, just to help protect the baby until their own immune system can ramp it up and produce their own antibodies. So when it comes to even babies, we want to make sure that they're getting the nutrients that they need, that they're getting the support their own immune system needs. And when it comes to milk, even for humans, milk, even for adult humans, is not really the best thing. So milk contains a lot of different things. For example, scientists have discovered that if we have high concentrations of D-galactose, it may increase and accelerate aging, which means that wrinkles will come out faster. And it also affects sperm concentration and motility in men. Then you'll say, isn't milk nutritious? Yes, it is for cows. So the compound in milk that produces D-galactose is lactose. Lactose is the type of sugar that you find in milk. It breaks down into glucose and galactose. And even for lactose, a lot of us, we don't manage with lactose very well, especially if you're East Asian. A lot of us will end up lactose intolerant as we get older. And what does this mean? It means that our body will stop producing an enzyme that breaks down the lactose in milk because our body will think to itself, you know what, you don't really need this. Why are you still drinking milk when you're an adult? So in fact, we are the only animal that regularly drinks the milk of other animals. And when you think about it that way, it's honestly just a little bit weird. So when you're looking at all of these products, yes, milk has some nutrients, but it also contains a lot of things that may not be the very best for you. So what we need is not milk, not more animal products, but more plant products. Everything that you're looking for in milk, you can also get from plants. So when you're looking for nutrition, it's not just automatically going for something you think is nutritious. You have to look at the whole picture. You have to balance it, think, oh yes, it has nutrition, but what else can it also bring to me? And what else does it have that might be harmful to me, and just choose wisely.
As the average consumer, I am confronted with so many different and supposedly healthy supplements on the marketplace. How do I know what type of supplement is healthy and what isn't?
So when it comes to all of this, we have to remember that just because something is natural doesn't mean that it's healthy. There's a lot of natural things out there that aren't very healthy for us at all. So when it comes to all of these different supplements or all of these different health foods out there, what we're looking for is not really something natural, but rather something wholesome. Natural has become a bit of a buzzword where people will slap on any product because they have this idea that it gives them the image of being very healthy, but not necessarily. What we want is wholesomeness. Wholesome is something that nature has given to us. For example, vitamin C has always been considered as something really healthy, and people tend to think that the more vitamin C you get, the better. The more of a good thing that you can get, the better it is. I also blame advertisements for this. They push the idea that it can cure your cold, it can help with viral diseases, it can help boost the immune system, but no, it doesn't really have these functions. Then why do we want wholesome foods? Why are the foods you can get in the supermarket the very best? There's a lot of nutrients in foods that we still don't know about. For example, if you want vitamin C, you can get it from a natural source. You can get it, for example, from an orange. And you can also extract it from an orange in a lab, or you can synthesize it in a lab. Now, if you extract it from an orange in a lab, a lot of the times they'll say, look, it's natural vitamin C. Whereas one that's synthesized in a lab has this negative connotation to it. People think it won't be as healthy as something that is natural or has been extracted from a natural source, but really it's all the same. Vitamin C that's been extracted from a natural source via vitamin C that's synthesized in a lab, the molecular structure is the same. There is no real difference. So just because something is natural or originated from a natural plant doesn't mean that it's healthy. Plenty of medications will come from natural sources. For example, aspirin will come from the bark of willow trees. Penicillin comes from mold. Digoxin comes from foxglove, etc. But once it's all isolated and purified, it's all the same. You still get side effects from these. So for example, vitamin C purified from an orange, you're still going to get the side effects of vitamin C because it's been isolated. So we want to pick things that are wholesome. And you want to pick something that you find easy to understand. But we also have this idea that something that's more scientific or something that sounds complicated is better. For example, if I wanted to sell you soybeans are something wholesome. It's got protein, it's got antioxidants, it's got all sorts of nutrients in it. Even scientists can't synthetically create a soybean because they still don't know what exactly is in it. But now people are always taking things out of the soybean, like protein, because they feel like, I only want this one thing. So they'll take it out, they'll concentrate, and they'll say that it's better. But if I wanted to sell you soybeans, you wouldn't be really interested, would you? But if I change the name, I'll tell you it's a high protein drink. It's a high amino acid drink. It's an antioxidant drink. Soybeans, they have all these things in it, but as soon as I change the term, suddenly it sounds a lot more attractive, doesn't it? But soybeans, it's already got all of these things, but it has all of these things in balance. So you don't have to be picking things. You don't have to be very picky about the nutrients that you want. Like you only want protein, you only want this or that or that. Because once you start extracting it, once you start isolating it, it no longer exists in balance and you start to get all of these side effects. Or sometimes people will say things like, it's been discovered by a Nobel Prize winner. But if you look at that, it's always just very slightly related. Oftentimes, these Nobel Prize winners, what they've discovered isn't actually directly related to their product. But even if you think about it, their prizes are very specific, and even them, they can't create something wholesome in a laboratory. And a lot of people, they view these supplements or even vitamin supplements as not having any side effects, and that's not true. Even if something says that they don't have any side effects yet, it just means that they haven't found any. So we want to choose products that are not overly processed. For example, wholesome soy is the best. It contains proteins, phytochemicals, antioxidants. It's got all sorts of protective benefits for your health that only exists with the wholesome soybean. For example, Asian women have always enjoyed a 3 to 5 times lower risk of breast cancer compared to women in the United States. A lot of scientists have always thought that this was due to a high consumption of soy foods in the Asian diet compared to the Western diet. Now, researchers weren't sure if women in the United States could have the same protective benefit if they consumed purified isoflavone supplements later on in life, because they have researched soybeans and they found that it's the isoflavone content that can have a lot of these protective effects. But then researchers at Illinois University found that soy products that are highly processed actually have a negative effect on the growth of breast cancer. So in animal models, compared to those that were fed soy flour, something more wholesome, the animals that consumed highly processed soy products, they actually had more tumor growth. This means that the minimally processed, the more wholesome soy had a protective effect against cancer. But as soon as you highly process it, as soon as you start extracting things from it, like the isoflavone supplements, they actually stimulated tumor growth. So for all of these things, we really want to look more towards the wholesome foods. The wholesome foods has exactly what you're looking for. For example, if you want vitamin C, all you need to do is eat an orange, and an orange will also have all sorts of other nutrients there as well. Now, if you really want just vitamin C, you can take a pill, but it does come with side effects. For example, redness or flushing of the skin, headaches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, upset stomach, feeling faint, heartburn, even kidney stones. But do you get side effects from an orange? Not really. I mean, if you eat a crazy amount of oranges, maybe you'll get a bit of stomach upset or diarrhea, but you could say the same for any food. So vitamins inside a wholesome food, they're good, but you want to be a little bit more cautious of things that have been extracted and purified. Now, when it comes to fermented products, a lot of people believe that just because something is fermented means that it's healthy. But what does fermented mean? And why do so many people want to eat these fermented foods? They believe that this naturally occurring bacteria are good and will help improve digestion. It will help improve their digestive health. Now, when we're looking at our gut bacteria, it has a huge diversity to it. It's got 1,000 to 5,000 different types. So what we want to do is when you want to support and create our own healthy bacteria, you don't really need to replace it from the outside. And even if you do replace it from the outside, it doesn't actually contribute to the healthy population of gut bacteria that you have. Plus, the bacteria you get from outside sources, they just aren't as diverse as the ones you need. For example, if you eat fermented foods or even take these probiotic supplements, it might contain just 1 or 2 different types of bacteria. And in fact, not all of these bacteria are good. So when it's fermenting, how do you control that all the bacteria inside are good bacteria? How do you control what the bacteria produces? Historically, fermentation has been used as a way to preserve foods because they didn't have fridges back then. But now we have fridges to store our food. I'm not saying that you can't eat fermented foods entirely, but just do it in moderation and exercise some caution. Now, during fermentation, bad bacteria can be present. It's not always entirely good. And a lot of people will say, you know what? I've eaten plenty of fermented foods. I've never felt sick. I've never gotten an upset stomach. But just because you don't get sick immediately doesn't mean that it's not good for you. You can eat it and not have an upset stomach and still end up with problems down the line because disease takes time to appear. Getting sick immediately after eating something is usually due to foodborne illnesses. However, it's not just the presence of bacteria that we need to be concerned about. It's the toxins that bacteria can produce. For example, sometimes fermented foods are just fermented for the taste and not actually to preserve it. In those cases, these foods are often treated afterwards to kill off all the bacteria. But even if the bacteria are killed off, the toxins that the bacteria produce can still remain. And these toxins can contribute to the risk of cancer. And cancer happens slowly over time. Even when we're looking at all of these so-called good microbes, they're not always good. Even if they're supposedly good, they can turn bad. It's like a lion in a circus. Most of the time, the lion is there. They're not going to attack the handlers, but every so often it will happen. It's the same thing here. The bacteria, they're opportunistic. If you're stronger, the bacteria will sit there nicely. But if you're weaker, if you're immunocompromised, then these bacteria, they're going to take advantage of this opportunity and become a problem. Now, most of these bacteria, they're not a problem for healthy people, but they can cause problems in people who are weaker, in people who are immunocompromised, and they can also have antibiotic resistance. Now, there has been research that has found that common probiotics found on the marketplace were actually resistant to multiple different types of antibiotics. Now, there's a chance that these bacteria that are antibiotic resistant can then pass on their resistance to more dangerous bacteria, thus constituting a safety issue. Now let's have a look at different fermented foods. Kombucha is a type of fermented tea. Now it can have some serious side effects, and occasional deaths have been associated with drinking kombucha tea. Now these bad side effects include severe liver and kidney toxicity as well as metabolic acidosis. So it's not really recommended for people with poor immune function. Now, most of the kombucha now is fermented properly, but we still want to be a bit wary about all of these fermented foods. Red yeast rice. This can contain something that is very similar to drugs. For example, it can contain something that's very similar to a drug called lovastatin. At least when you're using drugs, they do have side effects, but at least when you're doing that, you know exactly what you're getting. You know the dosage. You know that it is what it says it is. But with all of these products, you don't know. You don't know what exactly is inside it. You don't know how much of something you're getting. Even the US FDA has warned people not to buy or eat this because it may contain an unauthorized drug that could be harmful to health. And some commercial supplements have been found to have high concentrations of certain toxins. Like I mentioned before, it's not just bacteria that we're worried about. It's about the toxins the bacteria produces, because bacteria you can kill fine, but toxins, they're much harder to get rid of. Now let's have a look at stomach cancer. Now, the countries with the highest rates of stomach cancer in 2018 were South Korea, Mongolia, and Japan. And what do all of these countries have in common? They like to eat a lot of fermented, smoked, salted, preserved foods. Salted foods and smoked foods, they don't necessarily have all the nutrition that we're looking for. Now, they might not have bacteria, but they do still have harmful compounds in it. Now, all of their diets are very classically high in these salted, preserved, smoked foods like salted fish, pickled vegetables, kimchi. And a lot of scientists believe that it's this preservation process that contributes to the high cancer incidence. Now, you can lower your risk by avoiding these foods and by eating more fruits and vegetables. Eating more fruits and vegetables has been linked to a lower risk of mouth, throat, and lung cancer. Now, all of these things, fruits and vegetables, they also have a high content of fiber as well. And multiple studies have shown that a high fiber diet can help protect against colon cancer. Now, it's not just these fermented foods. A lot of people have been getting enzyme supplements as well. They're becoming more and more popular. Some people will say that if your digestion is bad or some part of your body isn't good, or even if you're healthy, you should still take some enzymes. But that's not really the case. Now, firstly, what are enzymes? Enzymes are proteins that the body produces to help break down food. These enzymes are secreted at various points of your digestive system, and some are secreted in the mouth, others further down the digestive tract, but they're specific and they break down specific types of food. So, would having more enzymes help? Not really. Enzymes do their job well, and their production is controlled by your body. Your body will produce the enzymes it needs. More doesn't really help you. A lot of people feel like, it's just because something is good means that you should have more of it, but that's not the case. You want a balance. Just take a look at the earth. We need sun and water, because without these two things, we won't be able to grow crops and we'll all die. But we don't want too much sun, because then we'll get a drought. We don't want too much water, because then we get a flood. We want it in a balance. It's the same thing with our body. Our body will keep tabs on what we eat based on the composition of food, and will secrete different amounts and combinations of enzymes. And whatever you take, you'll never be able to match the perfect combination of enzymes secreted by your own body. Now let's have a look at this commercial enzyme production. How are enzymes made? Enzyme supplements are commonly produced from the pancreases of animals like pigs, cows, or lambs. Sometimes they'll come from plants, sometimes they'll come from purified molds, yeast, or fungi created by recombinant DNA technology. And are they regulated by the US FDA? Not really. And thus, we don't know if they're safe or effective. They're not treated the same as medications, and thus they aren't subject to the same regulations or standards. There are some enzymes that are considered medications, but these aren't sold as supplements. They require a prescription from the doctor to get. For supplements, there's no good dosing data, and there's always a chance that they may be contaminated with impurities, so they really should be taken with caution. Now, who needs enzyme supplements? Now, there are some people who actually do need enzyme supplements. Enzyme supplements should only be used if someone has a health condition that affects their enzyme production, for example, chronic pancreatitis or cystic fibrosis. People with these diseases, they have known deficiencies, so their doctors will prescribe them enzyme supplements to substitute for their lack of natural enzymes. But for people who don't have any of these conditions, they don't need to take enzyme supplements. There's no evidence to support any claims that over-the-counter enzyme supplements will help with weight loss, with food allergies, or even with just vague digestional complaints. And they do carry risks as well. In fact, taking enzyme supplements in the absence of a specific deficiency can actually trigger the symptoms that a lot of people are trying to avoid to begin with. For example, it can trigger nausea, diarrhea, bloating, headache, neck pain, congestion, swelling of your legs and feet, high or low blood sugar, biliary tract stones, renal cysts, inflammation of your stomach or GI tract, muscle spasms, or even liver and kidney damage, depending on what else they've been mixed with. Enzyme supplements can also interact with medications, for example, blood thinners or diabetes medications, all things that you really want to control the levels of within your body. Another thing that's been really popular lately is something called coenzyme Q10 supplements. Now, it's called a mitochondrial supplement, and it's supposedly marketed as being able to protect against oxidative damage and help boost cellular function. However, there is no conclusive scientific evidence of any health benefits, and it does carry some risks, for example, diarrhea, nausea, or heartburn. In people with heart, kidney, or liver conditions, or those with diabetes, it can affect their liver enzyme levels. It can also interact with certain medications. Now, when it comes to this supplement, the US FDA doesn't allow any claims on it for treatments of any medical conditions, and the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center has said that these supplements may decrease the effectiveness of chemotherapy and radiation therapy. So it seems like a lot of risk for something that doesn't really help you. Now, when it comes to building up our immunity, we want to eat more fruits and vegetables, including soy and mushrooms, because soy is a really great source of protein. A lot of people believe that protein will only come from animal sources, but I want to correct this misunderstanding and use soy as a really great example of plant protein. And we want mushrooms as well because it contains a lot of different nutrients, for example, polysaccharides that will help your immune system in general. Now, when it comes to all of these things, a lot of these digestive symptoms that healthy people have aren't actually due to enzyme problems. So taking enzyme supplements, giving your body what it doesn't need, is unlikely to help. Now, a lot of these common digestive complaints like constipation or even more severe problems like diverticulitis, all of these things can be improved by just changing your diet. One of the main causes of a lot of these problems is a diet low in fiber. The modern diet tends to be heavy in meat instead of plant foods. For example, if you order a bento and you get the bento and it's a whole lot of rice and vegetables and maybe like one tiny piece of meat, you feel cheated. But if it comes with a whole huge amount of meat and not a single vegetable, you probably feel really happy, don't you? But when it comes to this, we want the bento that has a lot of vegetables and just a little bit amount of meat. Because if you eat more plant foods, you get more fiber. You get a lot of the nutrients that you need, and you don't have the unhealthy effects that come with meat. So for example, most people are not getting enough fiber a day. Most people, they only eat about 15 grams of fiber a day when they should be eating about 30 grams of fiber a day. Now, how much is 30 grams of fiber? That's about 10 apples with the skin. So just take a moment here and think to yourself, are you eating enough fiber to match 10 apples with the skin? And if you aren't, take the effort to eat more fiber because it is something that's really easy to get. It's a really easy nutrient to get. All you need to do is eat more fruits and vegetables. Now, when it comes to these digestive symptoms, it's much better and safer to address the root cause of your issues by changing your diet and making a point to eat more fiber. We also want to get protein not from meat, but from plant sources. And all of these foods, you can get them all in the supermarket. You don't need to spend huge amounts of money to buy these expensive supplements. All you need to do is go to the supermarket, buy any fruit and vegetable, buy a huge variety. And like I mentioned before, we want to exercise more and rest more, and we want to laugh more as well.
Dr. EE, there's so much information out there, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we're getting a lot of things wrong. Can you dispel some health myths for us?
So there's a lot of health myths out there. There's a lot of things that will be circulating around, especially the internet. And I really like to take this opportunity to help correct some misunderstandings. The first one, sunning or hot baths can kill the COVID-19 virus. Now, I feel like this misconception comes from the idea that a lot of scientists will say that high temperatures will get rid of the virus. So then people will think, well, if high temperatures will kill the virus, then if I sit in the sun for a little bit, soak up those UV rays, because UV rays kill the virus too, don't they? If I soak up these UV rays and I increase the temperature, sit in a hot bath, won't it get rid of the virus? But it doesn't quite work that way. So when you're sitting in a hot bath, the only temperature that changes is your skin. Your core temperature doesn't really change. So let's have a look at the normal body temperature. Normal body temperature is about 37 degrees Celsius. It's very tightly controlled, meaning that it stays between 0.5 to 1 degree of what it should be. Now, obviously, your temperature isn't perfectly stable through the day, and it changes, but only slightly, because your body has a lot of ways to maintain its temperature. You get hot, you start to sweat. The sweat evaporates, it takes away the heat. And have you ever noticed that when you sit in a hot bath, the blood vessels in your skin get bigger, you start to flush? That's your body bringing more blood to the surface to dissipate that heat. Or when you're cold, you shiver because your body is generating heat. So even if you're sitting in a hot bath, it's not going to affect your body temperature enough to make a difference in killing the virus. Now, even if you're looking at killing virus on the surface of your skin, you're still going to have to do a little bit more than sitting in a bath. For example, in France, they did an investigation, especially for those large catering businesses, because they wanted to find ways in which they can continue business without spreading the virus. And they found that heat treating the food at 63 degrees Celsius can help reduce contamination. A comfortable bath is about 40 degrees Celsius. So Unless you are making a human soup of yourself, it's very unlikely that you're going to get to temperatures that will make any difference in killing off the virus. Thermometer guns are convenient and accurate. They're not actually accurate. They are convenient, but they're not actually accurate. They're measuring skin temperature and not the core temperature. And even when they're measuring the skin temperature, they're still not that accurate. Let's have a look at how they work. They work by measuring the heat emanating from the surface of your body. So if you hold them further away, you get a cooler reading. You hold them really close, you get a higher reading. I mean, I'm sure everyone has had the experience. You're trying to get into a shop. Someone takes your temperature and you're at 35 degrees. That's hypothermia, and that's starting to become incompatible with life. And even if it's high, it doesn't really mean that someone has a fever. Maybe they've been sitting in a hot car. Or just imagine you're running through the airport, you're running through those long hallways, you get to the gate, they're aiming a temperature gun at you, and it shows that you have a fever, but you don't really because you've just been running. At the same time, it is a very quick, and more importantly, it's a non-invasive way to screen people. So it's really more used as a quick screening tool to pick out the people who should be looked at closer, and is not really used as a diagnostic tool. You can get COVID-19 from food takeaways. Now, COVID-19 is not a foodborne virus. There are still no evidence we have that people who eat food takeaways will get the virus from their food. So it's very unlikely that people will contract the virus from your food or from your food packaging. It's a respiratory illness, and thus the primary transmission route is through person-to-person contact and through direct contact with the droplets generated when an infected person coughs or sneezes. But still, if you're concerned, it's reasonable to follow general food safety guidelines, which is just wash your hands with warm soap and water for just about 20 seconds after handling takeout containers, and then just transfer the food to a clean dish using clean utensils. Wash your hands again before eating, after disposing the containers, clean and disinfect any areas. Now, it's possible that the new virus might linger on fruits and vegetables that have been handled by a person with the virus, but whether or not it can make you sick isn't actually known. So it's not really something that we have to be too concerned about, because up to date, we still don't have any evidence that food takeaways can spread the virus. COVID-19 can reproduce on surfaces. Now, recent research has found that COVID-19 can survive on different surfaces, but this doesn't mean that they will reproduce. It won't reproduce, it won't multiply, because viruses, any virus, it needs a suitable living host to reproduce. It needs a living cell. And a lot of the times, just because a virus has been detected on a surface doesn't mean that it's still infectious. For example, the method used to detect the coronavirus can't actually distinguish between genetic material from a virus that's still infectious, or a dead piece of viral fragment that can linger. Now, these tests are very simple. And because they're very simple, they're the ones that are commonly used. And if you really want to tell if a virus is infected or not, then you have to use a more specialized test. It takes a lot more time, takes a lot more money, and it's not really needed. So when it comes to all of these things about surfaces, we have to remember that so far, the main mode of transmission is person to person. So surfaces are not as dangerous as another person. And when it comes to surfaces, you just have to practice good hand hygiene and you're okay. Male baldness is inherited from the mother. This isn't entirely true. Male pattern baldness does appear to be mostly determined by genes. While the most well-known baldness gene is on the X chromosome, which men get only from their mothers, other factors are also at play. There's a lot of other genes there. Research suggests that men who have a bald father are more likely to develop male pattern baldness than those who don't. And if you want to figure out if you'll go bald or not, you can get a rough idea by looking at your father and your maternal grandfather's heads. If your maternal grandfather went bald, there's a good chance you have those genes. If your father went bald, there's a good chance you got those genes too. And we don't know which side has the greater impact. So if you're going to blame someone, it's more accurate to just blame them both. Split ends can be repaired with hair shampoo and hair conditioner. Now, split ends are a result of fraying or separating of the hair strand into two or more fragments. This is just down to damage to the hair. For example, heat, chemicals like coloring or perms, hairstyling tools, or just general wear and tear of your hair. And nothing is going to magic your hair back to the way it was before. The only way to get rid of split ends is to cut them off. Magnetic bracelets increases your energy. Now there's a lot of these popular pieces of jewelry out there, whether it's magnetic or ionized. It's all supposedly supposed to have various benefits like pain relief, improving balance, strength or flexibility, or improving your mental states. None of these claims have any scientific backing at all. In fact, the Federal Trade Commission of the USA has taken action against companies selling these bracelets and has warned us consumers that it's part of a scheme to defraud us. So all of these supposed magnetic energy or negative ions that these bracelets produce don't actually do anything for us at all. You need to clean your ears frequently. Now, about the only thing doctors do pretty much universally agree on is that putting anything inside your ear is a bad idea. Your ears do a good job of cleaning themselves and they don't need any extra care. The only reason you should clean them is to soften or remove earwax from the outside of your ear canals. So when you chew or when you move your jaw, you're helping move old earwax out of the ear canal to the ear opening, and that's where you can get it because it usually dries up and falls out. But earwax isn't formed in the deep part of your ear canal. It's made in the outer section. So if you stick something into your ear, you're not helping yourself because all you're doing is you're pushing it in. And the only reason you might have earwax blocking your eardrum is probably because you tried to clean your ears with something and you just push it in deeper. Sticking anything in your ear can cause serious problems, for example, infections, rupture of your eardrum, or even significant hearing loss. If you really need to clean them, if you truly have a blockage there, it's best to go to a doctor and have them remove it. Ear candling is good for your health. Yes, earwax is gross, or the stuff you find in your ear is gross, but that doesn't mean that you have to resort to special methods to getting rid of it. There's no scientific basis for ear candling. No study has ever confirmed any of the claims made about the wonders it's supposed to have. Now, what are these claims? They claim that as the candle burns, it creates a low-level suction that pulls out the wax and debris from your ear. Others believe that the heat from the candle melts and softens the wax, which can help it fall out over the next few days. Some will even say that it helps with cancer because it helps clear out the passages in your head. So let's deal with these one by one. Number one, the candle doesn't actually have any suction force. Scientists have actually looked into this and there's no suction force whatsoever. The heat from the candle doesn't help with your earwax. It doesn't help with any form of illness, and it doesn't clear the passages in your head because the passages in your head are not connected. There are solid barriers there, like your eardrum, that actually prevents these patches from being connected. It helps hold problems in certain areas. Now, earwax, especially if it's hard and firmly pressed together, is really sticky, and you would actually need really strong suction to pull it out. And in fact, researchers has even found that it might increase wax content in your ear because of wax deposited by the candles. Now, the FDA has warned that there is no valid scientific evidence supporting the effectiveness of ear candling. Instead, they receive reports of people who have experienced negative effects, for example, burns, perforated eardrums, or even ear canal blockages that required surgery. So for all of these things, if you're really desperate to clear out your ears, just go to a doctor and they can do it in a safe manner. Next up is, as seen in dramas, people vomit blood in extreme anger but are okay afterwards. I feel like this has come from people taking some idioms a little bit too literally. Now, a lot of people will say that, they have this saying where if you get really angry or really mad or just really upset, then you vomit blood. And in dramas, I feel like they've taken this idea to the extreme. They depict these people as vomiting blood, and then they're perfectly okay afterwards. But in real life, that's not really the case. In real life, if you vomit blood, there is likely something seriously wrong. Either you've damaged your esophagus, you have damaged your liver, causing varices, you have some bleeding ulcers in your stomach. Regardless, you have some disease that you really need to check out. So please don't take everything in dramas literally.
Now, we will be answering some questions from the audience. If you have any questions related to health that you would like to ask Dr. EE, please leave your comment in the live chat section. Dr. EE, what is a healthy way to lose weight and gain muscle to look good?
So when you're looking at the goals of losing weight and gaining muscle, what it really comes down to is exercise and diet. I'm sure you already know this. Everyone knows that to lose weight, you need to look more towards diet, but to gain muscle, you do need to exercise. Now, when it comes to losing weight, the most important thing is our diet. And what it comes down to is calories in and calories out. It is literally that. Now, the concept is really simple, but the execution can be more difficult. So when it comes to all of this, what we really want to do is look more towards controlling the calories. Because if you're trying to lose weight by exercising, you're going to be exercising huge amounts. For example, if you want to eat McDonald's fries, you're probably going to have to jog for about an hour to burn off those fries. So really, it's much easier to not eat these calories to begin with rather than eating them and then trying to burn them off afterwards. But when it comes to losing weight, we don't want just to lose weight. We also want to lose weight in a healthy way. So when you're restricting calories, it's not just restricting calories, it's changing your diet as a whole. Because for a lot of people, they will try to lose weight in any way possible. They try to lose weight for an event. They try to lose weight for the summer so they look good in a swimsuit. Or they want to lose weight for their wedding. So they take any method at all. They lose the weight, they hit their goal weight, and then they stop. And once they stop their diet, a lot of the times the weight will just come back because you never really developed healthy eating habits to begin with. So when it comes to all of these things, what we want to do is we want to have a close look at our diet, at our lifestyle, and we want to make changes that we can stick with. We want to make changes that we can persist with for the rest of our life. Because in fact, losing weight and then gaining it back, all of this up and down fluctuations in our weight is actually worse for us than never losing the weight to begin with. So when it comes to our weight, we want to make small changes over time. For example, if you really like chicken or you really like salmon, then you want to look more towards what are the more healthy ways I can prepare it. Less fried chicken and more steamed chicken, for example. And when it comes to gaining muscle, we want to make sure that we get enough protein as well. We want to get enough protein to help support our muscle growth because muscles, they do need protein to grow. And when it comes to these protein sources, we want to make sure that we're getting our protein sources from healthy sources because it's not just wanting to look good. We want to look good but be healthy at the same time because there's no point looking good if you're not very healthy, right? So when you're looking at these protein sources, we want to look more towards healthier sources. And a lot of the more healthy sources tend to come from plant sources. For example, a lot of the animal sources of protein, they tend to be higher in cholesterol. They tend to be higher in fat. They tend to be higher in all sorts of unnecessary things that we don't really want. Whereas plant sources of protein, they do contain all of the protein that you need, but they don't have that cholesterol. They don't have those unhealthy fats that animal protein may have. A lot of people have this idea that plant protein is not as good as animal protein because it's not a complete protein, but that's not true. There are plant proteins that are complete proteins, meaning that they contain all the amino acids that you need. Now, a lot of people also believe that animal protein is better than plant protein because your body absorbs it better, but that's not true either. Researchers have looked into this. They have looked into how the different parts of your digestive tract will break down and absorb proteins, and they rank them on a scale. They gave animal protein a score of 1, the highest possible score, meaning that your body has no issues getting the protein from animal protein, but they also ranked some plant proteins a score of 1 as well. For example, soy protein, meaning that soy protein is just as good as animal protein, and your body has no problems getting the protein from soy. And the next thing we have to remember is that you can't just eat protein and expect muscles to show up. You need to exercise as well, because if you don't put your muscles through that sort of training, through that sort of stress, then your body won't ever know to increase your muscle mass. Your body is very efficient, and if it sees that you're not using something, then it's not going to put the energy, to put the resources into developing it. But at the same time, these two things go together. For example, if you exercise a lot and you have huge muscles and you have a six-pack, and you're really proud of it, but all of that doesn't really matter if the reason you're doing this is to show it off. Because if you don't diet at the same time, what covers all of those muscles you work so hard in getting is a layer of fat, and no one will be able to see your hard work. So really, the two of them, it goes together.
Dr. EE, why do some dengue patients get dengue again? Is it because their memory B cells didn't keep the memory to help attack the dengue virus? Also, can you help explain how the dengue virus works in the human body?
So when it comes to any virus, it really depends on the virus. For example, there's more than one type of dengue virus out there, and also depending on the illness, memory doesn't last forever. For example, there's a lot of illnesses in which memory does last a long time. But as you well know, if you get vaccinations, every so often, maybe every 10 years or so, you need to go in for another booster shot to help boost the memory again. And some viruses, they don't produce a lasting memory. Now, scientists still aren't sure exactly why this happens. They still don't know how exactly to promote something to have a long-lasting memory. That's why developing vaccines for new diseases is so difficult, because they still don't know how exactly to come about it, how exactly to trigger the immune system to have this long-lasting memory, and how exactly to do this in a very safe way. So when it comes to viruses, any virus, when it enters in your body, it will have targeted cells. It will target these cells, and then the virus enters into the cell. It takes the virus DNA and it inserts it into the host cell DNA, so that the host cell becomes a sort of virus producing machine. Because viruses, they're not technically alive. It's one of those very strange things in the world in which it acts like it's alive in sort of like bacteria, in which it can jump from person to person and causes all sorts of problems, but they're not technically alive. Viruses are incapable of producing themselves, because viruses, they need a living host. They need to take over a cell. They need the internal machinery of a cell in order to replicate. So like any virus, the dengue virus works the same way. It enters your body, it takes over a host cell, and it starts churning out copies of this virus. And because it takes over host cells, it's also very difficult for doctors to deal with as well. Because, well, we don't really have a lot of very effective antivirals. Because for antivirals, we want to get rid of the virus, but then how do we get rid of virus inside human cells without destroying other human cells that might not have the virus? It's a very difficult problem to deal with. So for a lot of these things, the best thing doctors can do is support your own immune system, to support your immune system and give you time for your immune system to fight off the virus, to recover on its own. But unfortunately, some illnesses, they don't trigger lasting immunity. And sometimes, even though the viruses, they cause very similar symptoms, they're not always the same. For example, the cold virus. There's a huge number of cold viruses out there. And every time you get a cold, which for some people might be multiple times a year, every time you get a cold, it's a new virus. But it feels like the same illness. So there's a lot of different factors working together.
Dr. EE, why might tumors grow back even after surgery to remove them? Does this mean that the immune system can't destroy the tumors itself?
So when it comes to tumors, a lot of the times when you're doing surgery or when you're doing radiotherapy or chemotherapy, the goal is to destroy every last tumor cell. But unfortunately, that's not always a realistic goal because we don't know if we have destroyed every tumor cell. That's why we'll never say that a cancer is cured. We'll only ever say that you've been in remission. So you might hear, oh, I've been in remission from breast cancer for 5 years. I've been in remission for lung cancer for 10 years. Or something like that. You'll never say cured because there's always a chance that they missed something. And there's always a chance that there is a tumor cell just hiding somewhere in your immune system and somewhere in your body where your immune system can't find it. And that's why it's so important for us to take care of our immune system. Because whether or not the tumor grows back, a lot of it depends on our body and how well we take care of it. For example, for a lot of cancers, only about 5 to 10% of them are down to genetics, which means that the rest of them are down to our lifestyle. So we really need to take care of ourselves. So whether or not a cancer will come back or whether or not it disappears really depends on how healthy someone is. Now, if your immune system is really strong, it might be able to hunt down this rogue tumor cell and get rid of it so it doesn't cause a problem. But if you think about it, as someone who has cancer to begin with, someone who has had these issues to begin with, they already have issues there. Their immune system has already proven that it wasn't able to find these cancer cells and get rid of it. So it's really important for them to look into improving their health as much as they can. Not to mention that a lot of cancer therapies we have at the moment are also very damaging to the body. For example, chemotherapy or radiation therapy will take years off your life. And just going through those therapies actually increases the risk for other types of cancers as well. So just because doctors have tried to remove all of the tumor via surgery or tried to kill all via certain therapies, there's no guarantee that every single tumor cell has been eradicated. So it's super important, both before and after, that they always aim to take care of their body and they always aim to take care of their immune system.
Dr. EE, do beta-carotene pills have any side effects?
So when you're looking at all of these different pills like beta-carotene, there's some research showing that any pill, not just beta-carotene pill, but like vitamin C pill, vitamin A, or other sorts of pills, they don't really have any health benefits to begin with. For example, a study done in California has shown that taking these vitamin pills, taking these multivitamin supplements will actually increase mortality, especially in elderly people, people who are more likely to take these things because they want to take care of their health. But when it comes to beta-carotene pills, it can actually increase the risk of certain types of cancers. It can increase the risk of things happening to a fetus if a mother is pregnant. But when it comes to all of these nutrients, all of these things you can get from natural plant foods, right? You'll never hear of someone having problems with their baby because they ate too many tomatoes or too many carrots, right? So when you're looking at these things, it's not so much of do I need a pill? I feel like this is an automatic response for a lot of people. As soon as they feel like they want a nutrient or they feel like they're lacking in something, their first response is to find a pill, find a supplement, when really their first response should be looking into what is a nutritious food I can eat? Where can I get it from a wholesome source? And that's the sort of thinking that I want people to aim for.
Dr. EE, what are some other options to getting calcium aside from drinking cow milk?
So when it comes to calcium, a lot of people believe that calcium can only come from cow's milk, or when they look at calcium sources, when they think of calcium sources, it's always milk, right? It's always those advertisements, drink milk for strong bones, or they have on the packaging of the milk itself, it's like 2 times more calcium than our competitors. So I feel like a lot of people have this idea that calcium only comes from milk, when in fact calcium can come from plant sources as well. For example, soybeans contain plenty of calcium. A cup of spinach can contain more calcium than a cup of milk. So really, you can get it from plant sources, and it's all really easy to get as well. Just eat more leafy green vegetables, eat a few more soybeans, and not only are you getting calcium, but you're getting more fiber, you're getting more phytonutrients, you're getting all sorts of other nutrients that are also there, but you're not getting the fat that you get in milk, you're not getting those extra calories, you're not getting any contaminants that might be in the milk as well. So yes, you can get it very easily from plant sources. You just need to put in the effort to eat more vegetables.
Dr. EE, for persistent urinary tract infections, are there any other treatments besides taking high-dose probiotic and bovine cartilage, and then low-dose antibiotics as prescribed by a urologist?
So when you're looking at persistent urinary tract infections, a lot of the times we have to go for the root cause of these issues. For example, there is so far no proof that probiotics or bovine cartilage supplements will help with urinary tract infections, because those occur due to an infection, often bacterial. But a lot of the times people will have the symptoms of a urinary tract infection, but they don't actually have any signs of any bacteria there. So it might just be inflammation that is masquerading as a urinary tract infection. Or oftentimes for people who have persistent infections, they're often on antibiotics already, and that will ruin the results of any bacteria testing that they might do. So when it comes to persistent urinary tract infections, we have to look at the root cause. What is giving them this infection to begin with? Is it hygiene practices, or is it a malformation in their urinary tract? Is there a problem with their kidneys? Are they not emptying their bladder entirely? Especially for men, because if it's a man and he's getting persistent urinary tract infections, it warrants a deeper look into the urinary tract system, looking for any abnormalities there, because especially for men, because the urinary tract is longer, it's much harder for bacteria to infect them from the outside. So what happens then for men who get persistent urinary tract infections? We want to take a deeper look. Do they have a pocket of infection hiding somewhere that's just not being targeted by the antibiotics? Are they on the right antibiotics? Do they have a malformation in their urinary tract? Is there something structurally wrong there which is causing a sort of pocket to form, causing urinary retention, causing urine to collect or not empty entirely? We want a deeper look. So if for someone who has persistent tract infections, doesn't matter if they're male or female, and they're not being cleared up by antibiotics, we want to look into it. What is causing it? What is the root cause? And unfortunately, I can't tell you that from here. So for someone who has a persistent infection, it's best they go to a doctor, that they go for more thorough investigations to make sure that there isn't any other problems going on there.
Dr. EE, how can we boost our energy naturally? Will taking vitamin B12 help boost energy?
So when it comes to boosting energy is one of those very vague concepts. And a lot of it just has to do with changing our lifestyle in general. So when it comes to boosting energy, a lot of people will sell these health supplements. And they'll always say, oh, you take this and it will boost your energy. And it's very vague. It's a very vague idea. So they can always say it. And people always feel like it's really good. Yes, I can continue my current lifestyle, make no changes, take this little pill and somehow have more energy. Unfortunately, it doesn't entirely work that way. Some people might say that, yes, if I take this, I do feel like I have more energy. But is it because they really have more energy, or is it down to the placebo effect? Because so far, there's not a lot of scientific evidence that shows that taking supplements will actually boost your energy. What will boost your energy is actually just improving your lifestyle and your diet in general. For example, if you just move a bit more every day, you will have more energy. If you rest a bit more, you're going to have more energy, because a lot of people, they aren't resting very much. You go to work, you come home, you bring your work with you home. You're sitting in front of the TV trying to relax, and your phone keeps dinging with messages from your boss, your coworkers, so you're never quite resting. Which is why every time I go over exercise, I always go over rest as well, because the two of them go together. So for a lot of people, you don't have to go immediately for some easy fix like a supplement or a pill, because oftentimes they sound easy, but it's too good to be true. If you really want to make lasting changes to your health, to your lifestyle, you have to put in the work. And even for something as vague or as simple as boosting energy, it really still does come down to a healthier diet and a healthier lifestyle.
Due to time constraints, the next question will be our last question. Dr. E, what kind of food or diet can help reverse coronary artery disease?
So when it comes to coronary artery disease, what is coronary artery disease? I'm going to explain it super quickly for people who are not very familiar. Now, your heart, like any other organ in your body, requires blood vessels to deliver oxygen to it. And your heart is a muscle, and it's one of those muscles that just don't stop. It never stops. So it's always pumping, always pumping. So it needs a really robust supply of blood. It really needs a really robust supply of oxygen. And what coronary artery disease is that these arteries that supply your heart are diseased. So it's got these plaques forming on the walls, which means that the lumen of the vessel is narrow. The narrower it gets, the harder it is to deliver the nutrients that your heart needs. So this means that your heart is working oftentimes harder than it needs to work before, because it still needs to push that blood through the narrowed lumen, and that takes more effort. So it's working harder than before with less nutrients. And if you block it off entirely, then your heart isn't getting enough oxygen, and that's what causes a heart attack. And oftentimes, even if it's not blocked completely, people will still get these sort of angina attacks. It's like a mini heart attack where you feel pain, you feel tightness in your heart when you exert yourself. That's because as your heart is being exerted, it's pumping harder, but it's not getting enough oxygen. So when it comes to coronary artery disease, it's something that happens over time. It's not really something that happens immediately. And there's a lot of factors that will contribute to it. For example, diabetes is a huge contributing factor to heart disease, because diabetes actually affects the lining of your blood vessels. And if you damage the lining there, it's much easier for plaques to form. So if you have diabetes or any other contributing diseases, you need to get it under control. And to do that, it's best to see the doctor, listen to the doctor, take your medications, and also eat a healthy diet of low glycemic foods and to lose any excess weight you might have. When it comes to coronary artery disease, you also want to help lower your blood pressure as well, because high blood pressure, again, damages the vessels, increases the risk. You want to lower oxidative stress in your body. You want to lower the levels of inflammation in your body, because chronic inflammation also contributes to all of this. And what can you do to help control all of these factors in one? It's just eating healthier. You want to lose any excess weight that you have, because excess weight does contribute to diabetes. It contributes to chronic inflammation. And it also means that your heart is working much harder than it needs to. You want to eat more phytochemicals, because eating a healthy diet full of fiber and other plant foods will actually help you maintain your health. And when it comes to these coronary artery deposits, oftentimes it is believed that if you have these deposits in your artery, they're stuck there for life. But now we know is that there is a chance that you can help get rid of it. For example, you do need to make significant changes. You need to make significant changes to your diet. You need to make significant changes to your lifestyle. And you know the answer to this already. You need to eat more plants and vegetables. You need to eat less unhealthy foods. You need to eat less fried foods, eat less red meats, eat less animal products, and aim towards more plant foods. You need to exercise more. But when it comes to someone with heart disease, oftentimes they have heart disease because of these lifestyle factors. And they've had the same lifestyle for a really long time, and it can be really tough to break these habits. So another thing we want to do is we really want to support them in their efforts to break these bad habits, because we all know breaking bad habits is really tough. So for someone who is trying to protect their heart against disease, that's a really great thing. And we want to support them in making their dietary changes. And by supporting them, you can also try making the same changes to your health as well, and helpfully prevent this heart disease from happening to begin with.
Thank you, Dr. EE, for taking your time to educate us regarding health today.
Thank you, everyone. I hope that my talk was both informative and entertaining. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen.
And thank you, everyone, for watching. This video will be accessible until July 22nd, 9 a.m. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye.